Springfield City Council. I'm going to call this Springfield City Council work session to order with a roll call.
Mayor Van Gordon,
Here.
Councillor Pitts, Councillor Moe,
Here.
Councillor Rodley,
Here.
Councillor Stair,
Here.
Councillor Woodrow, and Councillor Pictionary.
I'm here. Thank you.
Councillor Woodrow is excused for the evening. We are expecting Councillor Pitts shortly. We have 3 items in the work session today. The first one is the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee applicant interviews with Michael Liebler.
On. Hello, Council. I'm Michael Liebler, City's Transportation Planning and Engineer. I'm here tonight for Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee applicant interviews. Tonight we have 6 open positions as of December 31st, 2022, and 4 applicants to fill some of those positions. So with that, if you have any questions, I'm here to answer them, or we can just start interviews.
Does anybody have any questions? All right, then we can bring up the first interview, Michael.
Yes, please.
I was not prepared to stand in front of everybody.
Well, it is not a great interviewing setup, so
It's okay.
So I'm going to ask all the questions, partially because we have some people on Zoom and some people off. We are very glad to meet you, even though this isn't a great place to do some introductions. So are you ready for your first question?
Absolutely.
Why are you interested in serving on the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee?
I spend a lot of time on my bicycle. I commute back and forth to work most of the time. I have for the last 6 years worked trauma surgery at Riverbend. So I see myself going back and forth to work. I see my fellow bicyclists going back and forth to work and for entertainment. I see patients, fortunately or unfortunately, coming in through the emergency department as trauma patients on their bicycles. So bicycles are something that I'm very passionate about, be that down a regular road in a bike path or on the side of the road or on the bike path itself. There's risks to both things. So those risks, I think, are important for all of us to be aware of, whether we're a driver or a bicyclist. I also walk 2 pretty enormous dogs quite a bit and I'm out running quite a lot. So I'm outside of the house probably as much as I'm in the house, and love the community and would like to make sure that people are safer than less safe.
Could you describe any additional professional or personal experience that you have as it relates to your desire to become a committee member?
Sure. Again, I worked trauma surgery for a long time. So seeing those patients coming in and out of the emergency department and taking care of them after being struck by vehicles. I've also been hit as I have ridden my bike before. So I've been a patient as well as a provider in that same setting. That's probably the biggest thing that gets my attention is being on the bike and making sure that people are aware of what they are. I've also been a driver and almost struck bicyclists before, and that is a very sick and uncomfortable feeling. It's terrifying to know that you can almost take somebody pretty quickly. And as someone who bikes as well as drives, if I'm going to hit somebody, there's some risks out there that we still need to address.
Can you give us an example of your work with any committee?
I haven't ever done a city or a governmental committee at all. I've worked on several committees within the hospital. One of the pieces that I think is interesting with city as well as hospital is that nothing moves quickly. There's always 400 people making one decision. My husband went from IT employed at the hospital to IT in a small office, and he said, "This is awesome. I can make a decision and just do it the same day." So I think that's a piece of it. I like working with different groups and finding out different sides to the same story, different ideas and pieces and parts.
And how do you think the work of the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee will improve our community?
I hope it improves it as a safer space. I hope it makes people more aware of bicyclists and walkers. I hope that we have more people out there than less people, and people get more excited about it every day, especially as gas prices go up. We've seen a lot more people biking, a lot more people with motorized bikes on non-motorized bicycle ways, and how does that affect the rest of us? So how do we make sure everybody's safe in that same setting?
All right, great. That was my last question. So thank you so much. We'll go through all the interviews and then we'll make a decision and then somebody will get back to you.
Great.
Thank you.
My apologies. That was Patty Briscoe, by the way. I didn't really announce you coming in. That's okay. Next applicant is Christopher Manuel.
Hello,
Hello, Christopher.
you can call me Chris, please. I'm not in trouble.
Not yet.
Yeah, right. Feels kind of like it right now, you know.
Are you ready for the first question?
Sure, yeah.
Why are you interested in serving on the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee?
Well, like Patty, I'm an avid cyclist. I commute most every day to work. I also work at Riverbend. I work in the healthcare field. I have an active family. We use the bike and pedestrian paths throughout the year. I want to get involved as a community member and give insight and recommendation on planned and existing future pedestrian plans, I guess.
And could you describe any professional experience you have as it relates to your desire to become a member of this committee?
Well, like Patty, I'm also in the healthcare field. I see people, I work in the recovery room. I see people come through getting surgery, and like Patty as well, I've also gotten hit by a car. So I've experienced both sides of that. As a healthcare provider and specializing in health promotion and healthy lifestyles, I would like to promote the infrastructure that supports that in the community. And personally, I think it would be satisfying to get involved in a governmental committee to give input on that.
Could you give us an example of any experience you have working with a committee?
Oh, I also don't have any experience in government committees, but I am a member of the Oregon Nurses Association. I've worked in many committees through them, one being a nurse staffing committee to promote safe staffing levels for nurses inside the hospital. I've also worked on the ONA PAC board committee, promoting interviewing candidates and endorsement of political agendas. I also have worked on the ONA Labor Board, which we work with other unions and to establish uniformity and standardization between unions.
All right, thank you. So, whoops. One more. How do you think the work of the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee will improve our community?
My hope of being a member of the BPAC is to give my input on policies, infrastructure, and programs that I will believe can positively affect our community, but by providing a safe, convenient means of transportation for commuting, for activity, for families to use throughout the community. So that's why I would like to become a member.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you, Chris. Our next applicant is Keith Dickey.
Yeah. Hello, Keith. Hey. Are you ready?
Yep.
Why are you interested in serving on the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee?
Well, I live on my property abuts the corner of Westy and Rainbow. So the bike path, the Westy bike path, is basically my backyard. And we've lived there for about 6 years now. And over that time, I've really, and I'm on that bike path every day, walking or riding my bike or, whatever. And I'm just driving up and down Westy. So I'm very familiar with that neighborhood, very aware of what's going on. I kind of feel like I have a pretty good feel for what's happening there. And over the course of the last 6 years, with the advent of more technology, with, the new, electronic bikes and other things, it's really changed and concerned me about the level of potential for safety hazards that's going on there. So I'm very, very into, just like Patty and Chris, very am I concerned about how we can figure out how to make all this work, because I think we're looking at an infrastructure that wasn't built for the technology that is all of a sudden is being used for. So that's, that's probably my biggest interest in.
Can you describe any professional experience as it relates to your desire to become a committee member?
Well, I'm retired now. I was in business for many years in the Eugene Springfield community. I've worked for the numerous consumer product companies that do business all over the United States and the world here out of Eugene in Springfield. And to that end, I've been on executive committees, managing businesses, budgeting responsibilities. I've managed sales teams. So a lot of that type of work. I'm used to being in an environment where, you work on problems, solve problems in a collaborative way. Sorry.
Can you give us an example of your experience working with the committee?
Well, again, haven't been in the governmental area. I don't really have any, I can't say I have any direct experience other than, my experience has been, again, working in business environments. I also, I've served on the churches I've gone to. I've been on administrative boards working, with folks like that. Just, I think mainly in the business world where you're, working in companies with, different groups of folks, solving problems.
How do you think the work of the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee will improve our community?
Well, I would be hopeful that it would help to manage this transition, and from, and make find a ways for all these different stakeholders to work together to build a safe space and to let folks embrace the technology, which is great. I think it's great that people are getting out of their cars and on their bikes, and that's all good. And it's, but I think hopefully this committee is a way to get input from folks like me, users, and help fashion a better way forward.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Keith. Our last applicant is actually a current BPAC member and is the current BPAC chair, in fact, Kevin Campbell. He's applying for another 3-year term.
Hi there.
Hello. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Why are you interested in serving on the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee?
Well, there's a couple of different things that motivate me. Primarily, I feel like we've got good motion on some existing agenda type items, and I'd like to see those have some continuity moving forward to the next round of BPAC meetings. And then I think there's also a couple of really pressing safety concerns that need to be addressed by the city and by city staff, namely picking back up on the Main Street safety project. I understand that that proposal has been reassessed at a recent city council meeting, and I think it's important that we don't lose sight of those safety issues.
Could you describe your professional and personal experience as it relates to this committee?
I have experience with this committee. As Michael mentioned, I served the previous term. I was the liaison to the Eugene's Active Transportation Committee or Council, which is the equivalent body in Eugene. I was elected as the vice chair of the committee. Due to some absences and other extenuating circumstances, I've acted as chair and conducted the recent meetings in the chair role.
Can you give any additional examples of your experience working with a committee?
This is the only formal governmental committee that I have been a part of. Prior to this, I have worked with nonprofit organizations, worked in a leadership role within businesses at a managerial level. And And those I think are transferable skills, but this is the only formal committee I've been a part of.
How do you think the work of the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee will improve our community?
I believe the committee can enhance bicycle and pedestrian safety. I believe we could move towards a more ADA compliant community. And I believe that we can enhance economic opportunities for business by moving towards a greener type of a transportation system.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
That concludes our interviews for the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee. I'm not too sure if we're going to be waiting till the end.
No, we've got enough interviews. We need to do it right now. How many openings do we have?
Currently, we have 6 open positions. BPAC consists of 9 voting members. Right now, we have 3 members who are returning to fulfill their final year of service. So 6 open positions, 4 applicants tonight.
Thank you. Leonard.
Thanks, Sean. I would, given that we have 6 vacancies, I would just suggest that we advance all 4 of our applicants tonight to the committee. And maybe we could reopen the nominations or reopen the applications as well. That's all I got. Thanks.
Corey.
Thank you. Thank you to all of you for coming and applying and reapplying. I think even if there were more, I would want to advance these 4 because I think you all have, very relevant interest and experience. So I'm also say we move them all, we put them to work is what I say.
Steve.
They're all qualified applicants. And the one I'm particularly interested in, I didn't get his name, the one that lives on Rainbow, is a front window view of the West D Street situation. And we really need that. So you're going to be on the committee, you're going to help. Thank you.
Okay, so anybody else? All right, Michael, I think we prepare everybody. And you're putting out an additional call when we do probably that February recruitment.
Yes.
AJ was signaling you with her mind that to put it on the list. Yeah. So I think we're good with these 4. We're excited to have all 4 of you and we're looking forward to your great work.
Thank you.
All right. Second item is the Springfield Police Advisory Committee applicant interviews with Tiffany.
Monroe with I'm the staff liaison for the Springfield Police Advisory Committee. We currently have 2 vacancies, one for our local business community and one for our citizen at large representative. We have 4 applicants, 2 for each of the vacancies, and we can get started with our first applicant is Cindy Koza.
Hi.
Hello. All right. Well, are you ready for me to start asking the questions?
Yes, I am.
Why are you interested in serving on SPAC?
I'm very comfortable working on advisory boards. I have a lot of experience in it, and I thought I might bring a unique perspective.
Could you describe your professional and personal experience as it relates to your desire to become a member of SPAC?
Yeah, my professional experience is, well, my background's in social work and community health. I am a local business owner in real estate, and I have a caregiving agency as well. And I have worked on dozens of different advisory councils over the years. And I was also a board for the board of directors for the library in Veneta before I moved to Springfield.
Can you give us an example of your experience working with committees?
Yeah. Right now I'm on some advisory committees for ODDS, which is the Oregon State Department, Developmental Disability Services. And what we do is we help legislators write the OARs for different programs that are implemented in our state. So I participated in that. I was on the Emergency Council as well, and I work closely with the Oregon Health Authority.
How do you think the work of SPAC will improve our community?
I think that social issues are something that I'm not quite sure exactly what comes up in these advisory committees, but I think broadening the diversity of the approach on how we solve social issues would be helpful.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And our next applicant is Merle Wayne Hutton, who I believe is joining us via Zoom.
Can you hear us, Merle?
Okay, I think that might have worked.
We can hear you. Can you hear us?
I can, thank you.
All right. So tonight, I'm Sean Van Gordon, I'm the mayor. Because we're all remote and Zoom, we're not going to go through introductions, but I'm going to ask all the questions. Are you ready for me to start asking questions?
Yes, I've been listening to the meeting since the beginning.
Perfect. Why are you interested in serving on SPAC?
I have retired from law enforcement 5 years ago, a little over 5 years ago. My career started when I was in the Air Force. I spent time as a deputy sheriff. And my last assignment, I was the supervising investigator for a district attorney's office. In that role, I've been a trainer, been a teacher. I've taught college level criminal justice classes. And having moved to Springfield 5 years ago, I saw this opportunity pop up and thought that with my experience, my background, I might be able to help the department in the city where I now live.
And you kind of answered some of this already. So, but if you could add any additional information about your professional and personal experience as it relates to SPAC.
I'm not sure if this is going to answer the next question as well. As I wrote a policy manual for one of my departments, and that was eventually shared and used by 5 or 6 other departments before they went to something different. I've also been very involved in legislation, I guess. I was part of the legislative committee for a statewide police union. And then along with my just overall training and experience, I guess that's probably has answered the next question as well.
Well, then I'm going to go to question number 4 for you. How do you think the work of SPAC will improve our community?
Law enforcement is, in most instances, the very real face of government. It's the arm of government that most people see. And you want that to be a good face of government. When I was just starting even as a reserve deputy sheriff, I started the first law enforcement, citizens law enforcement academy in the county where I was working, as a way of understanding that the police aren't the ones that can explain or answer the questions from the community when something goes wrong. You need the community to have those answers already, or at least as much of the community as possible. So what I'd like to be able to do is be a resource for the community, a resource for the chief and the department, and a resource for the city council as well in that law enforcement role. I've as best I can.
All right. Thank you very much.
Our next applicant is Teresa Dillon, and she's also on Zoom.
Terry, can you hear me?
Oh, that might be better.
Oh, we can hear you now, Terry. Can you hear us?
Okay, thank you. I apologize for not being there in person, but I'm out camping at the moment, so.
Well, we'll make it work.
Okay, thank you.
Are you ready for your first question?
I am, thanks.
Why are you interested in serving on SPAC?
Well, I'm interested in serving on SPAC. I've been on SPAC for the last 4 years, currently as vice chair. I'm learning throughout these years, I've learned how the police and the community interact together. And I want to continue to help that interaction become more and more positive all the time. I'm also going to be moving up to the chair in January if you guys approve me.
Could you describe your professional and personal experience as it relates to your desire to become a member of SPAC?
Professionally, I was with the Boeing company for 25 years. The most recent job I had there was as chief of staff to our Everett site manufacturing leader. That involved about 24,000 people under that particular person. I helped with union negotiations and finance. Sorry, I'm forgot what the original question was about then, unless that involved and answered it for you.
It was asking you to describe your professional experience.
Yeah. So that's my professional experience. Personally, I'm from a law enforcement family. I had an uncle who was sheriff of Lane County for many years. I have a nephew that's on the Eugene police force. I've had cousins on the police force. So I've been involved with police activity for many, many years.
Can you give us an example of your experience working with a committee?
Yes, I've worked with the neighborhood watch board committees and their activities. I've also been involved with Springfield Utility Board Finance Committee. I'm involved with the SPAC Policy Committee on the SBD's policies, and I was involved in the PAC 2327 committee.
And how do you think the work of SPAC will improve our community?
Well, I'm hoping that we can, some of the goals that we have started and that we're getting finalized now is how do we become a better liaison between the committee or between the police department and SPAC and the citizens of our community? How do we help that communication become more solid?
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our final applicant is Benjamin Wilkinson.
Good evening.
All right, Ben, are you ready to go?
Well, after the last three, I hope so, but
Why are you interested in serving on SPAC?
personally, I have an interest in criminal justice, having come from a criminal justice background family. My mother served with the Alaska District Court growing up, and I've always had a personal interest and passion in how we interface with our community through legislation and, of course, applying that legislation through the police.
Could you describe your professional and personal experience as it relates to your desire to become a member of SPAC?
Sure. Most of my professional experience is based around customer service. About 25 years of working with people, building relationships in different customer service environments. Whether they be large organizations of 350, 500 people, not 24,000, but or small organizations like the solopreneur business that I run here in downtown Springfield. So, additionally, I should note that professionally, I do operate a business here in Springfield, have done for about 4.5 years now, and recently was finally able to make the jump and land a home here in Springfield. Officially happy to be on this side of the river. So I'm happy to be a part of our community, and my investment is in this community. So I was looking for additional opportunities to invest in our city.
Can you give us an example of your experience working with a committee?
Sure. I worked for the University of Oregon. I had the opportunity to participate on multiple hiring committees, obviously liaising with classified staff and or permanent and exempt staff to pool applicants and move them through the process in an efficient, productive, and fair way, and educating the next hires, whether they be entry-level positions or higher level management experience. And then also safety committees and that sort of thing. Again, experience related to the customer service, food service environment, but very much relationship-based, committee-based work.
And how do you think the work of SPAC will improve our community?
Again, I think it is about relationships. It's about building trust and communication. I'm relatively new to the forum, so I would be looking to listen and to learn for the committee and hearing about the good work that's being done already by current committee members, and also ways in which we can move the conversation forward, because I think transparency and opportunity are there for that conversation, particularly in Springfield, in ways that I haven't seen it in other communities that I've had the chance to live in. So.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Of course. Yeah. Thank you.
And that concludes our applicants.
Okay, just reminding everybody, there's 2 vacancies, and then I had Cindy and Ben down for the business spot,
Correct.
and then I had Wayne and Terry down for the citizen spot.
Correct.
Okay, great. Joe.
Well, I think Terry's already been working hard on our committee. I've seen her work on the committee, and I'm very satisfied with her presence. So I would support her staying on the committee. And then on the others, you had Cynthia and Merle. I think for the other position, that's, correct me if I'm wrong.
It was Cynthia or Ben.
Ben, I apologize. Ben was last one. Okay, so I'm missing some applications in my packet, so I'm a little bit scattered here. So I was impressed just now with Benjamin's responses to the questions, and he articulated himself well, that I think that would, based on my work on that committee, he would be a good fit to offer some perspective coming in at a different angle. And I think it would add some diverse thinking that I think would be beneficial to the to that committee. So I would support Benjamin and Teresa Dillon.
Leonard.
Thanks, Mayor. I was taken with Cindy's background in social work and with disability services. I think it might be an angle and a perspective that we haven't often had with the Police Advisory Committee. So I would back Cynthia, and for the existing, I'm sorry, for the other slot, I actually like Merle. He seems to have a very strong background in law enforcement, and also having been a member of a citizens law enforcement academy, I think his perspective would be very useful. So Cynthia and Merle for me. Thanks.
Corey.
Thank you. Well, I thank everyone for applying. I think it was another great round of applicants. My 2 are Cynthia and Terry.
They're all good. I wish we could appoint them all, but Cynthia stood out very well for me. But Harry is very important. She headed up the pack that got the bond measure passed. She's a leader and she'd be very important. She's very important to the committee, very important to the community. So I recommend her.
And Damian?
Cynthia and Terry, please.
All right. It was a great set of interviews and thank you guys so much for coming down and joining us. You've in person and remotely. The two folks that I have Terry for the citizen spot and then Cynthia for the business spot. And I see that. And for Wayne sounds like he's a wealth of knowledge, so I don't know if there's something else we can find for him to volunteer for at the PD, but he sounds like he's got a ton of experience. All right. Thank you, everybody. Last item is the Willamette Lane Comprehensive Plan update. I see half the Willamette Lane staff in the background.
Hi, I'm Chelsea Hartman. I'm a new senior planner here. Just started a couple weeks ago, and I'm excited to join you tonight to introduce the Willamette Lane's comp plan update. So Willamette Lane staff last attended Council's March 7th work session of this year to introduce the project and to determine Council's desired level of involvement. Per that direction at your March meeting, Willamette Lane and its consultants are here tonight to provide a progress update on the initial findings of their needs assessment phase of the project, which is nearly complete. Willamette Lane and its consultant team will also seek input from council on whether the analysis, research, and engagement efforts they've done so far are adequate to move forward with the final project phase. The findings will inform the next 20 years of priorities in Willamette Lane's comprehensive plan, which is estimated to be complete as a draft in late spring of next year. To incorporate their updated plan as the recreation element of the overall Springfield comprehensive plan, the City Council and Lane County Board of Commissioners must co-adopt Willamette Lane's plan, and that process will involve public hearings and eventually adoption of an ordinance. The city has been dedicating staff time to stay informed, provide input in the planning process, and to manage the adoption process coming up. So I'd like to introduce the project team here tonight. Michael Wargo, from their Executive Director of Willamette Lane, Eric Adams, the Director of Planning, Parks and Facilities, Christina Bowe, the Landscape Architect and Project Manager, and Kenny Wygant, the Community Engagement Director. And then lastly, we have Jeff Milkus, who will be joining us virtually, and that's their consultant from Very Dunn, working on the project. And so I'll turn it over to Christina or Jeff online if he's there.
Good evening, Council. I'm Michael Wargo, Executive Director of Willamette Lane. So to the City Council, distinguished staff, Neil. It's really an honor, in all seriousness, to be here. Staff has spent a lot of time, and we are very, very proud to be Springfield's Park and Recreation District. Input and feedback is so valuable. So we're really excited to share what we've been working on and some of the great feedback that we've heard from our community. But again, thank you for this opportunity this evening. So without further ado, is there anything else? All right, we will pass it to our consultant, Jeff Milks from Barry Dunn, who will take you through our presentation and where we stand.
Thank you, Executive Director Wargo.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. My name is Jeff Milkus, and I'm calling in today from Gresham. I am a Portland Gresham resident and actually a former Springfield resident many years ago. So again, good evening, Mayor Van Gordon and Council. I'm very pleased to be able to present to you tonight just some of the findings and the process that we're going through in order to create the comprehensive plan update for the district. We started this back in Jan. Yes.
Do you want us to save our questions or do you want us to ask them as they go? Because if I let this group jump in, we'll get you off track in about 30 seconds.
Okay, well then I think in that case, we might wait the questions until the end.
All right.
Happy to answer any questions you have though.
Perfect. Thank you.
So let's start. Comprehensive plan update started in January, and I'm not driving the slides. There we go. So why update the comprehensive plan? Well, basically for this gold medal winning accredited organization, meaning that they are really the top of the top in terms of being nationally recognized as a parks and recreation agency. They last did their plan in 2012, and the best practices really suggest that you should do one every 5 to 10 years, kind of as at an outlying, kind of an outlier. There's been significant population growth, as you know, and the district has really grown over the last 10 years since the last plan. In fact, adding over 850 acres of new parkland. And as a result of that, in order to create this roadmap, we're not only updating the current plan, but really diving in a little deeper into many other areas. Next slide. So our timeline started in January. We expect to be done in June. There's an awful lot of information that has been presented to the community, and it's online at willamalane.org future. And I would encourage everyone who's watching the meeting and such to go check out some of the survey findings and such. The project is about 50% done, and for the process we're going through, these are some of the items, some of the tasks that we're working on. It's important to start with a good demographic analysis, understand regional national trails, look at the level of service of your parks. What kind of experience do your park users get? Then we look under the hood in terms of the financial and organization, what kind of funding and how effective and efficient the maintenance and operations are. Next slide. So a good plan like this really needs to be rooted in community engagement in order to really understand the needs and desires, and to provide a plan that your community will not only get behind, but a plan that they'll benefit and prosper from in terms of delivery of parks and recreation services. So you can see we used a multimodal approach in partnership with the district. Everything from stakeholder interviews and focus group meetings to a survey, statistically valid. We looked at intercept events. And then we thought, well, after everything that we've learned, we really need to do some special focus on specific groups. So we looked into what does the tribal community think, and the Latinx, and what do teenagers think, since they'll be inheriting this plan. Overall, we've seen just around 4,000 people now in terms of actual touches of engagement. So not just folks that are attending a particular meeting, but these represent folks who have taken their time or provided us direct input, who have completed the survey. Next. Speaking of the survey, we randomly sent 4,500 or so surveys out to the community, and we carefully monitored and carefully controlled for the first part of the survey to see that there was a specific link that was available and or the paper copy to return of the survey. We wanted to protect the integrity. You can go back to the slide here for a moment, please. Thank you. We wanted to protect the integrity of the survey itself. And so we know that the results are statistically valid. As soon as we reached that point, we opened up the survey for everyone in the community, keeping the two sets of survey responses separate. All in total, we ended up with 1,598 survey responses, which allowed us to do some things that we're really happy we're able to do, and we'll be presenting some of that here in the next few moments. In other words, we've got enough respondents where we can kind of slice and dice the data to tell you about particular users' desires or non-users' desires or wishes. Next. So here are some of the areas when we asked our community members, what about your areas of improvement? We started with the strengths of the district in a SWOT analysis, and we've got lots of those that we'll present in the plan. But for tonight, to be brief, our areas of improvement included communication with non-users was important. different times for classes and activities, more pool access. Although the district offers 2 large, very, very high quality aquatic facilities, there still is a need for greater access. Some of that we believe came out of unfortunate temporary closures due to the COVID pandemic. Next. Barriers that might link access. We asked folks about what is it that could keep you from participating in district recreation and district parks programs or activities. Again, district outreach to non-users, pedestrian walking routes that we'll show you in a moment, accessibility for individuals with disabilities. Next. So one of the things that I really appreciated about the survey results was we asked folks about feelings of welcomeness in the parks and in your facilities. How welcome do you feel? Do you feel like the service level is appropriate for you? You're treated, respectfully and such. Overall, on a scale of 1 to 5, the district scored extremely high at 4.4. But something to point out was that when we looked at the individuals that reported Hispanic or Latino background or Latinx background, they also felt very, very welcome at 4.3. Keeping in mind that this is one data set, one small data set in terms of the overall community, but I think it gives you a picture into successes and somewhat cause for celebration with the district, for the district. Next. So then we ask folks about importance of facilities and amenities. And in the survey, folks told us park safety and maintenance, natural areas and trails, and then restrooms and parks. And we asked the same question, in a sense, a few different ways. And on the scale of 1 to 5, when you ask people, tell us your top 10, you can see where there's a bit of a drop off, but still the top items were consistent in this and other forms of engagement. Next. At the end of the day, trails, pathways, areas for walking, for exercise or pleasure really rose to the top in our research. So these are the priorities for improvement: soft service, hiking trails, and scenic settings. We know within the area there, Eugene Springfield area, there are many really nice buttes and opportunities for scenic hiking, but in a lot of sense, they're kind of loved to death. And as a result, there are folks here that are telling us their priorities for improvement really are soft service hiking trails, connectivity between some of those and the parks, and then access to more paved or flat walking trails or walking paths were very important. Next. So we also were really pleased within the survey to see that there were so many people who were passionate about the district to the point where they didn't just check the box. They came up with many survey comments. In fact, we ended up with about 600 survey comments. These are some examples of very repeated comments. They're not in any particular order, but they are important. An outdoor pool is important to folks. Access to, greater access to swimming lessons, more restrooms. You can see that some of the themes tend to come across the engagement in the survey. Just to show you one of the areas of feedback, we received many comments about, again, the job that the district does in terms of meeting the needs of district residents. Next. So we'll kind of shift gears for a moment and move over to our level of service in parks. So we asked the question, what do the parks provide you? And within the community, what kind of experience is that? And we use a system that we call a component-based level of service, meaning we went into each park, did an inventory of every single component, looked at every drinking fountain, every bench, every ball field. And what we wanted to do was to get an idea in terms of what that experience is and how far people are from those experiences. And so there are a number of these observations that we made. There's some playgrounds that need to be replaced or need to be not repaired, but just their lifespan, over the next couple of years or 5 years will probably warrant. Good standards for trailheads, park signage, and you can see the list. Next. So we provided an inventory of each and every park that listed each and every one of those components, the score for those components. Why this is important is that we can map these and in comparison to population, comparison to diversity, crime index, household income, and we can score each park and say, where are the parks provided for each of the each of the categories of residents. We can look at walkability. We can look at how easy it is to drive to parks and what that experience is. Next. And that gives us these scores that allow us the opportunity, or will allow the district the opportunity to prioritize where they'd like to make future investments. Which parks, they can look at either the overall score, which we'll do in terms of recommendation, but also by amenity or by component. So if the community is really in need of, say, diamond ball fields, we can literally provide a list of where they are, what their scores are, and which ones to prioritize. Next. So when we start to look at walkable access, we realize that on the map here, you've got purple, yellow, and gray. And these align with population. So we looked at the total percent of population that has an experience that includes 3, possibly 4 components, sometimes 3 components and a trail. A component is something that you'd go to the park to use. A restroom isn't a component, it's an amenity that helps you with a greater experience. But a ball field, open turf area, a picnic shelter, these kind of things. And so we realize now that 32% of the community live within walkable access to a park that has met that standard of 3 or 4 components. We call the yellow area low service area, and there's about 45% of the population that lives in those areas. And they could live right across the street from a park with the components. However, if there is a barrier like a large road or a railroad, that can be something that would keep folks from access. We use the 880 rule, meaning that if you have an 8-year-old child or you have an 80-year-old parent, if you're not comfortable with them crossing that street, then there is a barrier. And so we look at those to be really, really realistic about it. And we see that in the city, within the urban growth boundary, which is our study area, 23% of the population lives in an area where they don't have service to parks and recreation opportunities within a 10-minute walk of their homes. Something that's important just to point out is that there is a correlation between median household income, diversity index, and crime index, and where higher scoring parks are. And that's something that is not uncommon, but I'm sure it's something that the district will be prioritizing. Next. So the good news is that when we take the barriers out, we say, well, maybe if folks have bikes or cars and the roads aren't really too much of a problem, or the walk up to a mile, 99%, virtually the entire community lives within a mile of a park that provides that really, really good service. Next. Okay, so those are just some of the highlights. I know we don't have a lot of time with you tonight, but we wanted to make sure that we could give you a little bit of information on the process and a little bit of information, just kind of the high points of what we found. The project timeline again goes through June. It's November, and we held a public meeting last week that was virtual, that a lot of attention was paid to make sure that the people throughout the community had access to. It was in person at the same time. And I'm pleased to say that the project is right on schedule, if not a little bit ahead. Next. So we wanted to point out that again, last week, we had the findings town hall meeting where we presented all of the information that you can find on that webpage. Going for next steps, we have some visioning workshops. We've done some of it already. We'll be working with the board, the district board at the end of the month. We will then review all the findings, begin to put the draft plan together for adoption in June. And this plan then will also be available for your board in Lane County as an opportunity to accept it. And I think that's it. Next. So there's my contact information, but you can catch me through Christina if you'd like. And we're happy to present or provide any additional information you'd like. This is an important project, and we're feeling, really good about where we are with engagement. Feeling really good about kind of where the project's heading at this point. So, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. I'm sure as district staff would be as well.
Corey.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this. I really appreciate it. And just a few things. And again, I'm not the boss of Willamette Lane, but since we get to co-adopt this, maybe this is a good time for me to have a little bit of input. So one of the things I just want to highlight is I appreciate the slide 17, the sort of walkable access demographics. And I think there's an opportunity for us to kind of poke into that a little bit more. And I appreciated sort of that overlay with the median household income. And I think one of the things as we sort of have the community conversations about where do we want to invest, and I'm one of those people, I'd love to see an outdoor pool, right? Where do we want to see making improvements? And I live in the heart of Springfield, and I am in one of those low service areas because of what's around me and what I can get my grandkiddos to. So as we think about that, is there a way to just get the data, overlay these maps with sort of the historical economic investments or not investments, or the under-resourced areas? Because if we're going to be building new things, if we're going to be putting in new shelters, if we're going to build new pools or whatever, or however we do it, to really think about, that's where that equity perspective comes in of where have we not invested, and how can we make sure that we target those areas? So this one I particularly really care about. And just thinking about how do we just really dig into that even more to say, now that we're starting to think about this, how do we think about what the future investments look like? And I think there's also an opportunity, and this is something for us as a city, as well as, the county or whatever, to really dig into what data do we have and what do we not have? What stories are we not telling about who lives there, or whether kids are able to walk to school, or who's using the parks and do they have to drive there to use them, or things like that. And I'm sure you're all thinking about that, but it's an opportunity for me to kind of dig into that too and say, oh yeah, well, let's have more shelters. Yeah, let's have more things. And where should they go, as opposed to leaning into where we're, the parks that have been resourced already. Okay, thank you.
Damien.
Hi, good presentation. I do have two questions. So my first one is that why were only the Latinx and indigenous community, why were they the only minoritized identities that were mentioned in any shape or form? Two, when you had up the the layout of Quartz Park, I saw there was some, whatever park it was. I saw that there were some, things you have 1 of this and 0 of this. And one of the things that I saw, and I've been a big proponent of this, was there was 0 grills. And just thinking about community and bringing people and having events and stuff, what are the chances that sooner or later some of these parks will have larger pavilions with larger grills that people can use to have family reunions, social events, and things like that? Because I think that parks are great, but you have to bring in everything, and not everybody has trucks or whatever to bring in things like grills and stuff like that. And I also think that grills can be a source of revenue for Willamette Lane potentially. And so, those are my 2 questions / comments.
Okay, well, if you'd like it, sir, I can kind of respond to each of them, right away.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, we did a demographic study, and the demographic study looks to see ethnic backgrounds and also Hispanic Latinx percentages within the population, as well as number of individuals with disabilities. And although we weren't able to, we didn't have the time, and I realized I went fairly quick through the presentation, but we realized that the state of Oregon, say, has 14% individual disabilities, but within your urban growth boundary, you're at 19 and some percent. So there's some prioritization that needs to take place there. We know that in the Latinx community has been growing, and in fact, I think it's 14%, and it's going to continue almost to 17% by the time that we finish the kind of the period of study at the end, or the area of implementation of the plan. In terms of other ethnic backgrounds, we didn't rise to the top on those in terms of presenting, but it doesn't mean that they won't be represented within the data set or within the recommendations. If that makes sense. In terms of amenities and grills and the like, and social opportunities, those will all be outlined in the plan as recommendations for the different kinds of experiences that can occur. And I appreciate the input. We'll record it, and it will become part of the consideration that we go. Looks like Christina might have a response.
Hi, yes. I just wanted to add to that in the community conversations that we've been having, we've been reaching out to different groups in the community and have been fortunate to find some really great partners that have helped us with this. And that's been a priority, to have these kind of community-driven conversations. And so we have been doing, and we'll continue to do some engagement, I think, throughout the process. And as we implement these plans, we have been trying to reach out to the NAACP. And there are other organizations that we have been trying to connect with and reach with varied levels of success. And so that's not something that we plan on stopping, I think, at this point. It's going to be an ongoing process.
All right. Go ahead, Michael.
Sorry, it's me again. Hi. Just wanted to also respond about the grills. Councilor Pitts, I mean, I've heard you loud and clear in prior meetings, as well as some of the feedback we've got from the community. So we've already purchased 4 grills that we plan on installing this winter for use in the spring. So we're really excited about that. So we'll make sure that you're all aware and can enjoy a nice day out and barbecuing in our parks.
And I think when you do a ribbon cutting for those, Councilor Pitts should be there.
We're going to actually do rib cuttings.
A rib cutting for those grills.
I'll sit down now. Thank you.
Don't leave your day job, Michael. All right, Leonard. Leonard. Oh, Leonard.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for this presentation. Very informative. I wondered if there had been any thought given to even adding on to the parks to make them even more of a destination, say public art, topiary, shade trees, things that would bring people out to the park and make them more of a social venue. Had Will Emmeline given any thought to any of that?
I can tell you in terms of the master plan, or the comprehensive plan, I'm sorry, is that we take all of the amenities and concerns, issues, opportunities, more or less, for each park area. We look at what the population is that will be affected. We look at the diversity, the household income, the crime index. We put all that onto a map and try to determine, if we do X, the result will be Y in a particular area, affecting the most people. In other words, it'd be really easy to complete a park infill project, but if it only affects a half a dozen people that live in a community, not to say their desires and needs aren't important, but given the difference between a half a dozen or 3,000, you see. So we want to make sure that we provide as much data and as much information to the district to make the best decisions possible. So art for areas in the parks, shade opportunities, those kinds of elements, restrooms, we call them comfort amenities, drinking fountains. They've all shown themselves. We have a list by each park, remember that we were able to inventory. And so we will be able to show in this particular community, walking distance of a quarter mile, say, or up to a mile, where do they not have these, or where do they have them? When we can cross-reference those with the population and say, well, these are all younger people, or these are people with dogs. So that's where really the off-leash area in the future may need to go.
Great, thank you.
Joe.
So this is a question for Mr. Wargo. So what date is the barbecues supposed to be installed at Jesse Main? Well, go ahead, Eric.
Councilor Christian, great to talk with you, sir. We have, as Michael said, we have 4 sets of grills. We have a pair of accessible and just regular grills. I'm unfortunately sad to report that Jesse Main is not one of the initial pilot project parks that we've identified, just given our desire to space those out throughout the community for equitable access. But we'd be happy to talk with you if you feel there's a desire for those in your in-district neighborhood.
Well, been thinking about that. I kind of figured that would be the answer. So I really can't support your plan. So you may think about, and I think Damien's got a great point, because I got to tell you, barbecues are awesome for bringing people together, because food is a common denominator. We all need it. But have you considered thinking about a neighborhood that would, if the money was raised by the local neighbors, and say, hey, we want a barbecue in our park, how much money do you need? Hand it over and say, install it. So it's not a matter of like a cost issue for the parks, but it may be something to where you would gather a couple different things. If you had the neighbors kick in for a barbecue, those very same neighbors are going to watch that barbecues because they've got a personal stake in that barbecue, and they're not going to really like to have anybody mess with them. You know what I'm saying? They've got a dog in the fight. And I myself, I'm close to Jesse Main Park and whatnot, and I would be part of a group that would be more than willing to see what it would cost to put one in and go from there. It could be a good community program.
I think it's certainly an idea worth considering, and we'd be happy to talk with you about it further.
Great. I'd be happy to talk about that.
Joe, did you have anything else? Steve.
The one thing that isn't talked about much, and yet I know the staff has heard a lot about it, bathrooms. They're a problem. And to solve that problem, you make them inaccessible for the public. And there's vandalism, the security, the homeless. I don't know what the solution is, but you talk about all these assets in the parks. People come to use the parks, and there's no bathrooms, or often no bathrooms to use. And I don't know what the solution is, but I hear about that a lot from a lot of people.
Yeah, we certainly heard about that in both the engagement and the survey. Yep. Really the top ranked comfort amenity. Eric?
Thanks, Jeff. Yeah, Councilor, I couldn't agree with you more. Certainly are aware of the issue. It is a huge challenge. And not just for Willamette, but for park and rec agencies really across Oregon and in the country. Having just gone to the National Park and Recreation Conference, annual conference, there were numerous sessions on that topic. And we're regularly trying to learn and share with each other of our colleagues in the city of Eugene, Lane County parks that have strategies that are effective. And I don't know that we've found an ideal solution yet. It's frustrating for us to invest that amount of public dollars and then not have those amenities available for the community to use. But it's also frustrating to see the amount of continued vandalism, damage, graffiti, and to be expending the amount of funds that we have to keep them open and safe for the public to use. So we are continually looking at different strategies, different designs, different placement, different fixtures, different ways to operate them and make them open, keep them open for the public. And that will continue to be a focus through this plan as well.
I realize and understand that.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you. I had a couple of things. When this is a great start to the presentation. I know that we're going to get the actual plan at some point and see some of the details that go behind it. Personally, I'm interested in actually seeing the survey and the statistics behind it. When I followed the presentation, I'm not sure that I could, like, I was getting confused about, because there's two sort of survey choices there, and it seemed like the results were sort of getting mixed and matched at the same time. I would really be interested in seeing the statistics behind it. You guys have had a challenging last couple of years, but a really productive last couple of years, and I'm really grateful for what you guys are doing from a Parks and Rec perspective. I will second the bathroom conversation as a user of your parks. And with the family, that is a tough situation. The other thing that I consistently hear is class times and availability. And I heard you guys bring that up, so I'm sort of just seconding and tripling. And I guess lastly, we won't see it until you guys actually see the comp plan. But one thing I'm really looking for is that sense of partnership that comes through about how you collaborate with schools, how you collaborate with the city, how you collaborate with sub. And the reason that this one's so near and dear to my heart is the neighborhood I live in Sky Lee, right? And Guy Lee has got property that the city owns and the school district owns and Willamette Lane owns. And it always is an abrasion point with the neighbors and how they use and access the park, because there's no real clear owner for any of that. And that sort of impacts, like, if you polled my neighbors, people would be not sure what the whole vision of the park was. And a lot of it's sort of compounded by the fact that it's a patchwork of ownership, and you kind of have to get everybody on the right page, right? So when I read the actual comp plan, I'm really going to be looking for just how do you connect all the dots, right? Because it's a very challenging operating environment, and how you partner with everybody is going to be helpful.
Okay.
And keep doing amazing things. Jeff, did you have anything else?
Yeah, I just would mention again, willamalane.org / I think future, and you can find all the data from the survey. There's a survey report, and if there are things in there that you would be curious about, that data that isn't there, if you talk with Christina, I'm sure that we can figure out how to find those cross-tabulated answers.
Yes, I can provide you with I'll send the report your way so you can look at it, but it is available for anybody who wants to see it on the website right now. We want to make sure all our findings are getting posted as we go forward too, so people can read and review what we're learning along the way. And wanted to thank especially your staff, who have been really supportive through this process and will continue to engage with us on the way, as far as thinking about the partnerships. We're going to be scheduling some meetings with staff and other agency partners to review the findings that relate and how we do overlap in a lot of ways. So making sure that people are on board and we're capturing things that are in your plans and making sure we're responding to everything adequately before we get a draft to our board or to you all to look at.
So what's the next steps as far as timing goes? I know this was sort of a check-in, just give us, you want to hear some of our feedback based on what you've done so far. You're going back, you're working it, like, when are we going to see this again?
So it'll go from here, we go forward with priorities. We kind of start looking at drawing conclusions from what we've learned. And so we're still learning a little bit right now and starting to transition into that, making some conclusions and prioritization. And so we expect a draft. Jeff has promised me the draft will be ready at some point in January or December, January-ish time. And we'll start working through that. There'll be multiple iterations. We'll again be coordinating with your staff through that entire time. And then our board will hopefully adopt it by June, and then we'll be bringing it to you after that.
Oh, great. Thank you. All right. Anything else from Team Willamette Lane? All right, we are going to adjourn the work session. Thank you, everybody. If you're staying for the regular session, we were going to stay on this meeting link, and we will start here momentarily. Thank you. You ready, AJ? Oh. I'm gonna call the regular session of the Springfield City Council to order with roll call.
Mayor Van Gordon.
Here.
Counselor Pitts.
Here.
Counselor Mo. Here. Counselor Rodley.
Here.
Counselor Stair.
Here.
Counselor Woodrow and Counselor Pictionary.
Here, thank you.
Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And Counselor Woodrow is excused for the evening. As we begin our meeting tonight, I would like to ask members of the audience who are joining us by phone or online to please keep yourselves on mute until you are called to provide public testimony. There are 2 times designated for public testimony this evening under public hearings and business from the audience. We have a small adjustment I'm making to the script. If you are attending in person, please complete the request to speak card located at the entrance of the City Council chamber and give them to the City Reporter. If you are joining us from online with a tablet, smartphone, or computer and wish to speak either of those times, please raise your hand feature in Zoom. The order of public testimonies is as follows: anyone in the council chambers, and then anyone who has raised their virtual hand. And Neil, how many people are joining us this evening?
Mayor, we have 16 online and approximately 14 here in the council chambers.
Great. First item, please.
First item is Springfield Upbeat. Item number 1, Mayor's recognition, 2022 Small Business Saturday proclamation. And Mayor, this is your item.
Whereas Springfield, Oregon celebrates our local small businesses and the contributions they make to our local economy. Whereas small business employs 46.8% of employees in the private sector in the United States. Whereas 58% of shoppers reported they shopped online with a small business, and 54% reported they dined or ordered takeout from a small restaurant, bar, or cafe, our small business in 2021. Whereas the city of Springfield supports our local businesses that create jobs and boost our local economy, preserve our communities. I, Sean Van Gordon, Mayor of Springfield, proclaimed Saturday, November 26, 2022, Small Business Saturday, and I urge residents of the community and the communities across this country to support small businesses and the merchants on Small Business Saturday throughout this year. I believe the chamber is here to receive this. Next item, please.
Mayor, the next item is the consent calendar.
I make a motion that we approve this consent calendar.
Is there a second?
Second.
Neil, could you call the vote, please?
Yes, Counselor Pitts.
Aye.
Counselor Mo.
Yes.
Counselor Rodley.
Yes.
Counselor Stair.
Aye.
Counselor Woodrow and Counselor Pictionary.
Aye.
Motion passes, 5 yeses, 0 nos, 1 absent. Next item, please.
Next item is public hearings. You have 1 public hearing tonight. That's the Justice Assistance Grant, and Chief Shearer is here for the staff report.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I'm Andy Shearer, Chief of Police for the City of Springfield. So the City of Springfield Police Department is proposing the use of grant funding to make an unbudgeted purchase to replace 20 gas masks that have exceeded their useful life and to support installation of a secure Wi-Fi system inside the Springfield Justice Center that would allow us to adhere to the criminal justice information system requirements. We'll take an inventory of existing gas masks, of which every police officer is issued one. It was determined the department had approximately 20 of them that were beyond their serviceable life. They've deteriorated in quality since the last inventory. The new masks would support safety requirements and provide the officers important and effective tools in the event of personal protective equipment if necessary. Installation of a secure Wi-Fi system within the SPD Justice Center that adheres to CJIS requirements to provide efficiencies for use of department issued cell phones in areas of the facility with poor cell reception, which is a problem, as well as provide backup options for body worn camera footage upload, which happens every day, and completion of mobile field reporting duties via mobile computer terminals. CJIS is the compliance standard at the state, local, and federal level to ensure data security. And currently the Springfield Justice Center has a publicly accessible Wi-Fi solution that is not utilized by law enforcement because it can't be used with our cell phones, our laptops for any kind of data transfer because it's not secure.
All right, are there any questions? And I'm going to open the public hearing. I don't have any cards for this item. Neil, do we have anybody wanting to testify online?
Mayor, I don't see any hands online for this item.
And I'm going to close the public hearing, and it does not look like we need any action on this. Is that correct? All right. Next item, please.
Next item is business from the audience.
I do not have any cards for business from the audience. Neil, do we have anybody online that's raising their hand?
Mayor, it appears we have no hands for this item.
Next item, please.
Next item is any business from the city council.
Corey.
Thank you. I just wanted to take a moment to, first of all, yesterday was Transgender Day of Remembrance. Also over the weekend, I wanted to acknowledge the trauma and the mass shooting at Club Q and just call out how that impacts folks in our communities and just know that I am thinking of anyone who may be impacted by that. Transgender Day of Remembrance and the month of November is to draw attention to our transgender neighbors and to sort of mention that transphobia is a systemic discrimination against transgender, gender diverse people and affects those around us all the time, every day. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other business? All right. The one thing that I saw, it is in your email from Shane. We still have several city attorney evaluations that are out. In fact, none of us have completed them at this point. So the deadline to get your city attorney evaluation done is Monday, 11/28. So it's at the end of the Thanksgiving holiday. So we got to get those done. It's a pretty hard deadline because AJ's got to packet it up and get it turned in. So please get that done. And I'm sure AJ will let me know how many people have turned them in so I can start calling you on Wednesday. All right, next item, please.
Mayor, next item is business from the city manager. You have a few items under this topic. Item number 1 is acceptance of project P21152. That's the High Banks and Thurston overlay. That's resolution number 1, a resolution to accept city project P21152, High Banks and Thurston overlay. Jeff Pascal is here for the staff report.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, councilors. Jeff Pascal, Community Development Division Director. I have the pleasure of representing the engineering group, the capital group, who delivered this project with the consultant and the contractor. Second to last project you'll see for acceptance. One last project that they're finishing up the final things. I haven't seen the final payment come in, but Centennial. So this one was completed 2 summers ago. Finally have all the paperwork done and all of that. One note I would make that is really the success story here and helped us complete all of the projects. As you see in there, a significant reduction in the contract. That was actually a proposal from the contractor to kind of change up how we were preserving it in the final product. And that actually, with the inflation we were seeing, allowed us to pencil out and finish Centennial without having to add a lot of other funds from some other areas. So,
are there any questions? Anytime you come and talk about the road bond project, I mean, it is nothing but good news stories. And every time that I drive any of those roads. They look absolutely beautiful.
Contractors have as much knowledge of those as you do. So working with them, getting information from them is helpful both ways.
Yeah, no, that was a positive. I mean, it was slightly different, evaluated by our engineer, and we basically got the same structure without having to do the full depth reclamation, added a little more asphalt.
Good deal.
All right, Steve.
Okay, I make a resolution to accept city project P 21152 High Banks and Thurston overlay.
Second.
Neil, could you call the vote, please?
Yes, Counselor Pitts,
Aye.
Counselor Mo,
Yes.
Counselor Rodley,
Yes.
Counselor Stair,
Aye.
Counselor Woodrow, and Counselor Pictionary.
Aye, thank you.
Motion passes 5 yeses, 0 nos, 1 absent. Next item, please.
Mayor, the next item is city property purchase, and Sam Kelly Quattrochi is here for the staff report. He's online. It'll just be a moment. Sam, we're ready when you are.
Excellent. Hi, good evening, Mayor and Council. Just coming back to you all again for this quick property purchase to authorize city manager to sign the purchase and sale agreement. This is for Ace Trading Company 3697 Franklin, pardon me. It's just over 1/4 of an acre. This will be slated for future phase 3 Franklin redevelopment. At this time, the property owner came forward, and by entering into this process now on their terms, we can avoid future relocation costs. There will be a 5-month lease back, and then we would go from there.
That is not accurate. We're actually avoiding eminent domain attorney related costs. They will, if they voluntarily shut down operations, then they won't be relocated. But if they continue in operation, they would be relocated pursuant to the Uniform Relocation Act.
Okay,
thank you for that. Other than that, any questions or comments?
All right, Steve.
I make a motion that we authorize the city manager to enter purchase and sale agreements for one parcel of real property in the Glenwood tax lot 17-03-34-31-00300 upon the terms as substantially provided in attachment 1.
Second.
Neil, could you call the vote, please?
Yes, Counselor Pitts,
Aye.
Counselor Mo,
Yes.
Counselor Rodley,
Yes.
Counselor Stair,
Aye.
Counselor Woodrow, and Counselor Pictionary.
Aye, thank you.
Motion passes 5 yeses, 0 nos, 1 absent. Next item, please.
Any other business from the city manager?
No additional business. Thank you.
Any business from the city attorney?
No business. Thank you.
All right, thank you, everybody. We are adjourned for the evening.
Yes.